Hello.
Nice to see you.
Good to see you too.
We have a sort of series of questions. There's a long period of time between the start and now, and many could say this is just the beginning.
Yeah, exactly. I do solemnly swear.
What were you doing before Marquee AV?
A bit of DJing, a bit of dance music.
You had a head of hair in those days, though.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Yeah, I did. It was flowing locks back in the day. And then born out of that as well, I suppose, I had a sound hire company, which kind of that path led me to meeting Mark.
At this point, just give me an idea of the music you were into.
House music in many of its genres. My definition probably seeing world house music.
And do you think from that music led into the actual equipment, the sound equipment?
I was renting equipment, I was setting up equipment for people, and so I always had from that point an interest in supplying product for events, and that led me to be able to take some equipment and go and do our own little parties. So sort of music and equipment.
It's in your DNA from an early age. And what was the initial spark that led you and Mark to start Marquee?
We were working together at Audio. I was a service engineer. Mark was a director of that. And then that took its path and Installations was formed. And it was at that point, I think I'd been to meet clients with Mark on a couple of projects where he needed a little bit of technical support. And then from that, obviously, we got on.
But what's interesting is that you've had a real background in the original gig, whereas today it is a very different landscape with technology.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. I mean, it's all evolved. Primarily, it's just really how we're talking to it these days is the difference, isn't it?
And what were your specific roles and responsibilities in the early days?
Well, really, it was project management, which led to client liaison. Yeah, just getting the stuff, getting in and done and up and working.
But Stacey, you're not only a techie guy, you're very good with people. You're a people person.
Lucky me.
Well, I say that's unusual. A geek is normally a geek.
Well, I pride myself on that.
And a geek, by the way, that's not a derogatory. I mean, I'm just saying.
No, I know. I'm happy with that term.
We have to have geeks in our lives. But you're also very good with people, which I think must be a real advantage with you and Mark working together and building up the business.
Yeah, I mean, Mark's very much a people person. I think possibly my strength is I'm quite good at listening to clients. Hopefully I don't miss anything. Yeah, I mean, that's, I think, my strength with people, and I think that when people feel that, they like that.
I agree entirely. Very important. And can you share a memorable project or client experience that stands out?
That is a question and a half. Something which makes me laugh, and I think back and it puts a smile on my face. I remember we were doing a big project. It was in the middle of the countryside. And we had to do some sound tests to see how much the sound would leak to the surrounding areas, And so I was literally sitting behind a set of decks and a mixer and a sound system, speakers on stands and subwoofers on like a massive pile of mud. And it was, and someone took a photograph of it, and it was hilarious. It was just this bizarre thing, and thinking back of the stuff that you do,
crazy
to deliver and all of that.
Was this a commercial project or a residential?
It was a commercial project.
Commercial.
Yeah.
So it was in the middle of nowhere.
Yes, it's in the middle of the countryside. Obviously, the development that was all coming up out of the ground.
But Stacey, when did you know that Marquee was going to be successful? Was there a turning point? Was there an event or a time when you just knew that you were in the flow?
Do you know what? My honest answer to that is that for me, it's still a work in progress. For me, in my mind, there's not a definition of we are successful. It's something that, I think quite a subjective thing, isn't it? So success, I would say that I haven't really had a thought of going, Marquee is successful.
At which point were you proud of it?
Day one.
Very good.
Got to believe in what you do.
Absolutely.
The name in itself has some heritage, and obviously I think that you've got to try and continue to deliver along those lines, really, is what I would say.
You do, and clearly you do. What are your aspirations for Marquee projects in the next 25 years?
Just to keeping on, keep going, this is...
It's a Tamla Motown title, keeping on.
Yeah, that's my mantra in my head all the time.
Very good, very good. But when you say keeping on and that you aspire to go on delivering, are you ever satisfied with the work that you deliver? Because clearly you're doing something right.
Well, do you know what? I think we're very fortunate in that we are so busy that there's not a great deal of time to stop and reflect, really. You're right, okay, what we got to do next, you know.
But at a quarter of a century, this is a good opportunity to reflect.
Well, yeah, then maybe I will.
I think it's important. Stacey, what advice would you give to an aspiring entrepreneur in the audiovisual industry? But I'm talking about a youngster now in his or her 20s.
Work hard, get your head down, work hard. I don't think there's one definitive thing that you could say, right, do this, go this avenue. I think, you know, open mind, be a sponge is probably what I would say is probably
That's
the best
nice.
thing.
I like that.
Be a sponge, soak it all up, learn, keep learning, have an ethos to keep learning and with an eye on detail. And I think, you know, if you can keep learning, keep trying to do stuff nice, well, right, and then you should do well.
And seeking out a mentor?
Well, that's probably a good idea, yes.
I think it's a very good idea. I think it's important.
Yeah, no, that is actually, that's a good point.
I mean, Stacey, I'm looking at you. You'd be a very good mentor, as Mark is.